what about the projects we're actually happy with? Are they obligatory finished? And my answer is nope. Now, call me lazy, that's absolutely okay, but I always try to extract the most out of my work. Because, let's stop this one and move over to my page. Because I've spent hours or even days modeling, texturing, scattering, populating, lighting up scenes only for what? 1 or 2 shots? Well, that's most of the times not enough for me. There have been projects where this was more than enough and I once again wanted to just end them and move on. But most of the times that's not enough for me. And today I want to show you a few examples. Some of you are always asking for me to show you examples of my work. So let's talk about a few of them. So we'll start with the Klärwerke house. This means a wastewater treatment operator's house. Yes, in German there is a word for everything. So this is a project where everything went right. I was happy, the client was happy, everything was okay. We did a frontal shot, a more dynamic one, the one you see here, which made the depicted architecture more energetic and focused more on it. We did entrance, close-up or detail shot, whatever you want to call it. We also did a like full property shot showing how not only the building but also the surrounding infrastructure. And we also made a facade detail showing the material and like the facade edge. And everybody was happy. And this is exactly like not the opposite, but this is a different example for what we talked about last time, because this one project that I told you about, it was going to be a money project and I did my best to turn it into an actual portfolio project or exposure project. Whereas here I already had the images. The thing is though, while working on this project, I was simultaneously doing some reading on the topic of photography, more specifically on sequences, which is more or less having the same motive but approaching it differently with different aspect ratios, zooms, focal lengths and camera angles and so on, and giving every new image a new meaning, so to speak. So I said, you know what, if we take a look at this full property shot, you will see in the distant corner, then there is this bike rack with bicycles that I spent time, I spent time creating the rack. I spent time scattering the bicycles in some type of natural looking and organic way. And this is everything we see from this. Obviously, the final image is actually printed out quite largely, so you can actually see it. But for me, this was not enough. So what I decided to do is, well, let's make my sequence study with the bike racks instead of creating a new scene. So what I created next was this shot. This is still a very architectural one. This is why I added it here to my side, because as you can see in the back, you still see the original building, you still see part of the entrance area, part of the delivery cars, the initial building. And this shot, even though the focus is clearly on the rack and the bicycles, this shot focuses mostly on the availability of the option for the employees of this company to go to work with bicycles and have a place to park them. So it's not about the bicycles, it's not about the rack design, it's about the availability. And this is so cool about sequences, that you have all the same motive, but approaching it in different ways helps you give the images different meanings and different emphases. Mario says, Theo, the surrounding, is it in real life or the client wanted it like that, the forest in the background? It's a very secluded building because there, it used to be this building in the back. It had also a pitched roof, and it was next to like a facility, whatever it is called, I don't know, water treatment facility. So this is where the person who was taking care of this facility, the operator, was living. So this is very secluded and it's actually surrounded by forest. It's not that there are buildings around and I just make forest for my convenience. It is how the actual surroundings look like here in this particular case. It's a bit strange, but it's exactly the way you see them. Even this, kind of muddy road on the side is there in real life. So yeah, now let's continue with the sequence images. Then we have this one, and this one, it also focuses on the bikes, but it's a different image. It's all about the symmetry. It's all about the central perspective. It's about this hypnotic impact it has on the viewer, but we still see some building in the back. Now the further images I would actually remove from my page. I left them in the side because I plan to show this today, because they don't have anything to do with the building and the architecture anymore. So it looks ridiculous to have an image like this in a project where that is about this building here. But nevertheless, I left them inside in order to be able to show them to you today. You already know this. I have shared this project in the past. I just wanted to show you that I wanted to do a study on a specific topic. And instead of creating a new scene for this, I just went with a part of a scene I had already created. So what I could focus on, instead of creating everything from scratch, was just experimenting with the topic I was currently interested in, with sequences. So yeah, this is one example of how we can make the most of our projects. Here is another example. Amit says, this is just wow, I envy you, Theo, such a skill. Wow, thank you very much. What a nice feedback, Amit. Thank you very much. And well, looking at your gym, I don't know what you have to envy, but yeah. Anyway, here. This was an ongoing project. I did the exteriors for this one, and at some point the clients reached out and said, you know what, we just want to show how open our interior space is. They didn't want more than one shot. They wanted this one shot that shows that we have an open living room, dining, and a kitchen, and there is a lot of wood on the inside. So this was the only thing they needed. I delivered the shot as you see it here. But obviously, in order to make it work, what I had to do was, this is something that because this is a type of a prefabricated house, so there was no interior design, I had to come up with something. So I had to come up with design for the living room, for the dining, for the kitchen, for the whole space. So if I've already invested all of this time to make this work, then I also want to make the most out of it. So of course I continued taking shots. And once again, I'm having fun. I'm recharging my batteries and experimenting and learning. But instead of learning from scratch and wasting days in creating something new, I just use what I already have so that I can focus on what actually matters to me. In this particular case, it was about creating some beautiful, interesting shots. And here you see such a shot like this. This has a very, very high focal length value so that it looks like this. Also, especially wide framing. But I wanted something like this because I also work for clients who do lamp design, and I wanted to show them different approaches to this. Then the kitchen, obviously, I already have done a kitchen here, so of course I'll make a kitchen shot. So next time a client reaches out and says, dude, I want you to visualize my kitchen blocks. Do you have any references? I'll say, yeah, here you go. Then the living room. I mean, I've already spent the time in, balancing out, finding out fitting furnitures that go together well, doing some, lighting setup and doing all of those things, trying to make a good composition in terms of living, but also in terms of the image. So why not show it? Why stay at the very first image when I can do something like this as well? And as you know, I like close-ups a lot. And if I can take a few nice close-ups, I'll always do this. This is, for me, it is actually fun. And this is also something that I sometimes also tend to gift to my clients. Let's take a look at a different example. The Vorwache Stuttgart Münster. This is what's the English word? A fire station. Okay. So, in this particular case, as you see, the fire station is made out of wood, and this is not the most typical material for fire stations because, as you know, fire stations have to deal with a lot of water and wood aren't best friends. So we had to do a lot of images showing how this interior of the fire station looks like with the wood, but the clients weren't interested in evening shots or something else, because they wanted to show the wood as it is, and it is best visible during the day. However, I myself was very curious to see how this fire station would look like once the trucks are lit up, like they're going on a mission or something. So I did this one, for example. And also, if we scroll down here, I think it's the last one as well. If we scroll down here, this one as well, I just wanted to see how it looks like. I wanted to see the lights, the reflections, and see how lively it will become. Obviously, the shots above, all of them were needed by the clients, once again, because they wanted to see how this thing looks like during the day. But something like this is something I came up with after the project was finished, because I wanted to train my framing skills, or let's call it a natural framing, even though this is like the door and the window of a fire truck, but it's the nature of the situation. Anyway, and of course, the one thing that I also did in the end was this shot, because I wanted to experiment with storytelling, with AI enhancement of human beings, and also an interesting composition. So I made this storytelling shot that I also smuggled into the whole session. And now I have a session which is mostly consisting of images that I delivered to the client, but also some images that I added to make it even more interesting. Ivan says, how would you know if you're going for a dusk scene, evening, morning scene? Will you do the test renders in different lighting mood and choose what you think is the best, or you just choose and decide one mood right away? Well, both. It depends on the situation. Give me a second, please. I will pick the images from last time. I think it will be needed. Second, I'll show you. So with the substation we discussed, will it open here? Yes, with the substation we discussed last time. As I saw the original, I knew, okay, this is an ugly surrounding. I gotta isolate it, because I'm not willing to show it, because no matter how realistic I depict it, it will always be ugly. It is ugly on a photo, which is like the maximum photorealism. And if I do it in 3D, I won't be able to do it better. So my approach here was to isolate it. So it was about the camera angle, and a great way to isolate things you don't want to see is to leave them in the dark, which obviously happens in the evening. So this is why, as the clients wanted something like this, I was like, are you sure? Don't you want to go with an evening shot? And this is why, I decided to do this one, because here I was able to isolate everything I didn't want to show in the darkness and only light up what actually matters to the scene. So in this particular case, I knew what I was going to do. In other cases, I would experiment from time to time. Sometimes I would not only experiment, but also end up using different times of the day. Here with this one, you actually saw that the lighting for the main shots is coming from the left, lighting up the facade, but the lighting for this one is leaving the side of the building actually dark, so that my foreground, the thing that I want to show to the viewer, is properly lit up and the background is dark. So you obviously have a certain flexibility, so you can move the sun around and stuff. Just make sure that your images are still looking consistent in the end. And if you change something, I always recommend changing a lot or enough so that it is visible that you've deliberately changed the mood and it's not just inconsistency on your side as an artist. And maybe a different example, I think maybe on this one. This one, for example, you see here I have an evening mood because I wanted to show what's on the inside of the building. So this one focuses more on the interior. Obviously, you cannot see much interior, but it's a bit like a blue hour shot where I want to show that something, it's not only a house, because this house is very basic on the outside. It's even called house basic, but it's still pretty cool on the inside. So I took a few shots in the evening, but then I took a shot in with a sunset mood because it was giving me the atmosphere I was after, and my clients as well. Here, by the way, this is another example of a project that I did this shot on, which actually was not something that the clients paid for, because they're not interested in seeing a BMW or BMW, I should say, as somebody living in Germany half my life. They were not interested in seeing a BMW Cabrio from above. This doesn't really add to their project at all. But here you see another image they loved is this, let's call it, I don't know, soft light, soft evening light. So on this project, I have 3 different lighting moods, and it's still okay. So, but yeah, I also experiment a lot. I do. And some projects end up in different moods, like this one, for example. You see, we have a lot of the classic good weather, sunny, positive mood shots. But we also have a different one in the end, this one, where that depicts a building in a bit of a different way. It's in front of a dark sky, and the building is warmly lit up so that it has a bit of a different impact on the viewer. And I think I can show you a ton of examples, but we don't want to have the show be 10 hours long. Here, I want to show you a bit of a different example. Like, this was a huge new living quarter that I had to visualize. And yeah, it was a lot of work, but the clients really loved it. And the images that you see were all done for them, except for 2 of those images. This one here. And if you ask yourself, so why would you do something like this? This is actually an image that the client received as a gift from me and loved. And why did I do it? Because the gardens, I have the task to depict the gardens in a way that it is immediately visible for the clients of my clients, or the potential buyers of those houses, that they can do with their gardens whatever they please. They can use them to chill, to mow them, or maybe grow up some own vegetables or fruit, or they can landscape them to hell, make them resemble a Japanese style garden or whatever. It's up to them. So I already had this element built into my scene. So in the end, after a great work together, I wanted to give them this one final shot as a gift. And as you know, I love close-ups, so it was a pleasure for me to render this one out, and I gifted it to my clients. And the best thing about it is that they actually very, very much loved and appreciated it. And the reason for this is the following. Most of the times when you do something like this won't be just one image or a series of images that will be just hanging on a wall, you know. It would be a part of a booklet or a part of a presentation and whatnot. And having atmospheric images like this is something that clients actually very, very much value, because this is part of their project. It looks like it is a part of their project, because as we already talked about it, it is. And even though it doesn't really add much of information regarding the project, it adds a lot of emotion. It adds storytelling, and this is what clients also value a lot. And by the way, I said there were 2 shots that I added on my own here. The other one is this one, just because I sometimes love doing automotive renders. And talking about automotive renders, I gotta show you a last example. This is a project called Goldener Apfel, which means golden apple in German. And this is one where it was one where we need to really be very sensible and careful with the implementation, because these are 2 new buildings built or going to be implemented in a very historic surrounding, as you can see here. So we needed to be sensible with how we deal with the situation, and I think the images turned out really, really nice. We even focused on some of the historical elements already there. And after finishing this one, I was like, man, so much empty. It's not like a classic street space, but it's a space where a car could be placed and it would look really, really awesome. And then I remember that years prior, I had actually bought a car just because I love the model so much. And I've never used it. So I took this car and made a new session out of it. And this is what you see here, the Lincoln Zephyr Voodoo Priest. It's actually the car from James Hetfield from Metallica, and somebody was kind enough to build a model of it. I bought it, and this is where I thought it would actually very nicely fit. And once again, instead of building entirely new surroundings from scratch, I used the existing surroundings, and what I could focus on once again was getting some really nice angles, prepping up the car a bit more, the car paint, and yeah, getting some really cool shots, which I did in the end. And as you can see, given that I had already built the surroundings, I also get very cool and realistic and authentic reflections. So yeah, what I want to advise you is to be smart and just make the most out of what you have. Amit says you also love to do stalker shots though. Yeah, I really like them. I just like the framing of elements in the foreground. This is the thing, and this is why they end up being like stalker shots. But yeah, I stick to them still. Anyway, this I don't only have to show you examples of mine, by the way. Let me briefly remind you about a exercise scene that we have, the Light Walls house that's available in multiple formats, 3ds Max and Corona, 3ds Max and Corona adapted for Vantage, 3ds Max and V-Ray, and Vantage standalone, meaning a VR scene and config file, and an FBX for those that don't use 3ds Max. It's available since January in the group. For those who are new, you can download it, and it's fully furnished and textured. So what you see here on these interior shots is exactly what you'll be getting. You can download the scene and experiment with it as much as you want. But why I show this to you, because on Monday, as I checked into the group, I saw something very strange. I saw something very familiar as well. I saw what you just saw, this part of the kitchen and a pot with boiling water on it. And this is another example of being smart about things. Like Abdi wanted to do a boiling water animation, which is already a very hard thing on its own, because as you can see, it's a mix of Phoenix for the liquid simulation and Tyflow for the bubbles, and then also After Effects for the steam. So obviously he could have, started creating a new kitchen especially for this, but why should he? There is already a scene to experiment with. Of course, he just uses the scene. He even went ahead and changed the texture here. So you see all the other parts of this cooktop are not turned on. Only the one he has placed the how do you call it? The pot on is turned on, which is a great small detail, by the way. But yeah, he just used this and focused on what really mattered to him in this particular case, which was making a very cool and convincing animation rather than building kitchens from scratch. So yeah, as you can see, in the end of the day, it's about working smart. Obviously, working hard is important. Always give your best, do your best, and make everything you can in your within your abilities and reasonable effort to deliver what is expected of you, or maybe even more. But also be smart about it. It doesn't matter if it's within the timeline of the project or after it. So if you create those additional shots within the project or after it's finalized, but make sure to extract the most of your work, even on projects that you are satisfied with. Just take a look at this one, for example. I mean, this is what the clients wanted. The shot showing all the buildings, the gardens, and everything. But I was like, hey, how about something like this? And believe me, they were so happy to get this shot, because once again, the first one sells information and some emotion. This one sells all the emotion of living in this quarter. And this is what actually attaches the clients of my clients to the project and makes them sell more. So yeah, in the end of the day, once again, it's your time, it's your effort, so respect it. And also, it's a great exercise. As you saw on all the projects here, with every next shot you take, you're training your photography, framing, lighting, and what's not more skills. And this is something you definitely profit from. So, folks,